Of late, the trigger for content for this channel seems to be coming from some negative comments about EVs. I have covered an extensive episode on how much time we spend on charging. There's another episode of about life of an EV enthusiast, and today's episode is going to be some reality about electricity and the requirement of electricity for EV adoption in India. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of GreenNClean YouTube channel. My name is Vittal. One common comment that comes when you talk about more EV adoption is whether India's grid is ready for so much EV adoption. And that has been a topic of debate in many of the arguments that happen between an EV enthusiast and an anti-EV guy, or somebody who wants to know the reality. So I thought today's episode I will try to see what it looks like if India goes for more and more EV adoption. You'll be surprised looking at the result, but I will not reveal everything right away. Like many of my episodes, today's episode is also based on facts and figures that I pulled from Vahan website. There's a dashboard in Vahan website which is published by the government of India, and all the numbers and statistics that I'm going to show you today are from that website. So I'll provide the link in the description. By the way, if you are new to the channel, a kind reminder to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos if you like the content. So let's get started. India's current EV adoption is a dismal 2.5 or 3%. We don't even figure in the top 20 countries by EV adoption. But when you pull out top 20 most polluted places in the world, 17 of India's cities or towns figure in that list. So that's really sad. We can definitely improve the air quality and the pollution around us by several different ways, but it is proven that the vehicular pollution caused by vehicles moving on the road is a significant contributor for the bad air quality. There's no doubt about it. If there was doubt, then London's ULEZ areas would not have had more than 30% improvement in their air quality. ULEZ is an area in London where only ultra low emission vehicles are allowed. You can look it up in the internet. And then there are so many cities in China which are having more and more air quality improvements. It's visible for everyone, and also across the globe where the EV adoption is more than 30%, you will see a vast improvement in air quality. Just back here, I myself can say something about air quality, right? So when the COVID lockdowns were announced in 2020, I think after a week or 2 weeks after the lockdowns were announced, when I was on my terrace and I looked at the skies, there was something unusual. I have never seen more blue skies in Bangalore than that period. That was mostly because there was lockdown, there was no vehicular movement, of course, no activity, no factories, nothing was running. So it all contributed for a greener air for sure. So that's a given. Okay, let's focus on today's episode. Today's episode is about whether India can afford more EV adoption or not, and we will look at some numbers today. Before I go into the EV adoption rate and those figures, I just want to bring to your notice these numbers that you see on the screen. This is India's power production in the last 3 years. In the year 2022, we had produced 1624 terawatt hour of electricity. A terawatt hour is 1 followed by 9 zeros, I think. 1 followed by 9 zeros kilowatt hour makes a terawatt hour. So India's power production in 2022 was 1624 terawatt hour, which was an increase of 8.87% compared to the previous year. And in 2023, it is 1734 terawatt hour, increased by 7.2%. And in 2024, it is 1824 terawatt hour, increased by 5.2%. So you can see here India's power production is increasing at more than 5%, 5, 7, 8%, something like that. So that's one thing I want to bring to your notice. So let's look at an imaginary situation where every vehicle that was sold in last year, that is 2024, was an EV. I know it sounds ridiculous, but let's say that we have 100% EV sales last year. There were no ICE engine sales, right? Let's look at those scenario. So what I have here is a number of vehicles that are sold or registered in 2024. Again, these are from Vahan website. These are not numbers cooked up by me. So you will see primarily 4 types of vehicles two-wheelers, cars, three-wheelers, and commercial vehicles. I have not included tractors, road rollers, and such type of vehicles because those numbers are very small. So primarily these four categories: two-wheelers, cars, three-wheelers, and commercial. When I say commercial, it includes buses, trucks, and other light commercial vehicles. So all of that are grouped here. And if you look at the number of sales, two-wheelers we had sold 1.63 crores in 2024. Cars are 43 lakhs, three wheelers is 57 lakhs, and commercial vehicles are 8 lakh 50,000. So these are the sales figure. And what I have tried to do in the next column, where you see kilometers per year, based on some numbers and statistics, I've tried to see how many kilometers these vehicles run in a year. So for a two-wheeler, it's 12,000 kilometers. For cars, it is 20,000 kilometers. Bear in mind that I have taken a slightly higher figure. If it was 8,000 for two-wheelers, I've considered 12,000. Cars is usually 15,000 per year, but I've considered 20,000. So I've considered higher number. Three-wheelers, it is 40,000 per year, and commercial vehicles, it is 80,000 per year. Now let's look at the power consumed for 1 kilometer of running of these vehicles. For two-wheelers, it is considered 40 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Cars, it is 6 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Three-wheelers, it is 30 kilometers per kilowatt hour. And commercial vehicles, it is 2 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Again, these numbers are baseline numbers that I have taken from reliable sources. Now, if you take these and multiply with the total number of vehicles, total number of kilometers driven, and the power that is required to run those kilometers, then you are looking at these numbers on the power required per year column. It's a huge number. I don't even know how do I read this. So it is 489 crore kilowatt hour for two wheelers. For cars, it is 1,433 crores kilowatt per year. So likewise, 760 crore for three wheelers. So these are very big numbers. 3,400 crores for commercial vehicles. But are you scared looking at these numbers? I hope not, because what I'm going to do this is, add all these numbers, and it comes to roughly about 6,082 crore kilowatt hour. And if you convert that into terawatt hour, it is coming to roughly around 61 terawatt hour per year. So if all the vehicles sold in India in 2024 were EVs and they had run these many kilometers with this much of power consumption figures, then these vehicles would have taken 61 terawatt hours of extra electricity from the grid. Now, how does it look when you look at the total power produced in India in terawatt hours? So it is 61 divided by 1824 terawatt hour, which comes to roughly about 3%. So that is the figure I wanted to disclose today. Even if 100% of the sales last year were EVs, we would have only increased the power grid capacity by 3%. And how much are we improving year on year for power production? Much more than 3%, right? So 5%, 7%, 8%. And bear in mind, if there is so much demand for electricity, then it can be met by a lot of means, renewables being one of the main means with which we can achieve this. So we can probably afford 100% EV adoption, in the sense 100% EV sales right now, but we are just looking at 2%, 3%, some numbers like that. So that's negligible load for the existing power capacity that we have in India. Now, some of you might say that I'm just looking at the total power required, which is 3% more than the current production. But what about the peak power demand, in the sense when all cars try to power the battery, what will happen to the grid, right? So that's a very valid question, and that is probably one thing that we have to watch out. It's not just like 3% increase so we can easily afford. No, the power grid also has to support how simultaneously these extra 3% of electricity is demanded from the grid, right? So for that, if you look at the case of cars, so if you have a car that is giving you 400 kilometers of real life range and you are doing less than 2,000 kilometers a month, then you are looking at charging it probably 4 times or maximum 5 times in a month. That means once a week. So one of the common things that people think about EVs is that EVs have to be charged every day. No, it's not like that. Most of the EVs you don't have to charge every day. In the case of cars, as I mentioned, it could be as less as once a week, and that's the number. So if 1/7 of the cars are charged on a single day, then it is a lot less maximum load that will be put on the grid. I don't know, I don't have a sure shot formula to say it is possible or not possible, but my rationale is that not every how many cars, 43 lakhs, right? Not every 43 lakh EVs are going to be charging at, let's say, 9 p.m. In the evening at the same time, right? That's very unlikely. So you are looking at a small fraction of 43 lakh cars that may be uh, going for charging at any given point of time. Okay, what I want to bring to your notice is, you have seen the figure 61 terawatt hour is the extra power required if every car that is sold from today is an EV car or a vehicle, right? So it is 61 terawatt hour. And what I try to do is, let's look at some of the other power consuming appliances in a house, right? And I looked at ACs. So if you look at the total power demanded by ACs in a year, let's say 2024, you will be surprised to know that ACs were demanding something like 75 terawatt hours of electricity last year. So that means already ACs are demanding as much or more power than the 100% EV adoption that we are looking at, right? And what surprises me is that no one really told you, like, don't buy ACs because it will make the grid collapse. And ACs, by the way, have more chances of being powered on at the same time, like when you are sleeping in the night on a hot summer day, or maybe during afternoons, right? So there is more chance of ACs being continuously being on at the same time than cars or vehicles that are charged for battery, right? So that's the fact. Okay, I hope that gives you some perspective about what we can do with the EV adoption from the current 2.5%, right? And by the way, I have no investment, no business interest in pushing these EV adoption. I'm just doing it just to show some real scenario and just to show some truth about these increased EV adoption. Now, what I try to do is take this study to the next level. And what I have gathered is all the vehicles that are plying in the road today. Again, this is from Vahan website. So if you consider every vehicle that is registered and running on the road, probably running on the road in India, you are looking at these figures that you see in this picture. So two wheelers, we have how many? 28 crore two wheelers in India today. We have 6 crore 82,000 cars. We have 1 crore 15 lakh three wheelers, and then we have around 60 lakh commercial vehicles. These are not exact figures. I've just rounded off the numbers from the Vahan website for simplicity, but you get the picture. It is more or less these numbers. And let's put the same baseline figures: 12,000 kilometers a year for two wheelers, 20,000 for cars, 40,000 for three wheelers, and 80,000 for commercial vehicles. And with the same efficiency, 40 kilometers per kilowatt hour for two wheelers, 6 for cars, 30 for three wheelers, and 2 for commercial vehicles. Then if you add all the power that is required, if every single vehicle that is on the road today in India were EVs, then you are looking at 567 terawatt hour of electricity. Now that's a lot. 567 terawatt hour of electricity out of 1824 terawatt hour for EVs is roughly about 31%. So 31% of the grid being used for EVs is not a sustainable, is not a very feasible thing to do today. But we are not going to just change all cars on the road from the ICE engines to EV or whatever types it is to EV, right? It is not going to happen in a single day. It is not going to happen in 1 month, 1 year, probably not even in 10 years. It is going to take a lot of time. So this 567 terawatt hour, or in other words, 31% more electricity demand is going to come gradually to the grid. And if I look at, let's say, 7% year on year increase in the capacity of the grid, then in about 5 years we will be having 40% more electricity produced, and 10 years it will almost be double or more than that. Well, this might surprise you. It did surprise me, to be honest. Before doing this study, I was not expecting this kind of result. I was thinking maybe if we have 100% EV sales right in 2024, maybe we would need double the capacity of the grid today, or at least 50% of capacity, but it's just 3%. I'm surprised with my own results here. So I guess that's what we are looking at. It is quite possible, if there is a will, if people go for EVs, then India can support. And I have covered an extensive episode on how Bhadla power plant, the solar power plant in Bhadla, can potentially power all the EVs in India, right? So it is quite feasible that with more demand for power, we can scale up the power production using solar panels, using wind and renewable energy, not necessarily coal. That's a reality, and this is already happening in other countries like China, Australia, parts of Europe. It's happening, and why should India be lagging behind in this, right? And that's the purpose of making this episode, just to put some things into perspective and what is feasible and what is not feasible. So to sum it up, if in 2025 all the vehicles that are sold in India are EVs, we can probably manage it, but it should at least be 10%, 15%, 20%, which is easily manageable. And I'm not sure what will be the number. The growth is very slow. People still hesitate for EVs even after presenting so many facts and figures in front of you. Not just me, there are so many researchers, so many people who are more informed than me, who are convincing governments and people that EV adoption is possible and is probably the need of the hour. Thanks a lot for watching this episode. See you again in other episodes of Green and Clean YouTube channel.